103 years now, the Cincinnati Opera has been going strong. This season certainly is no exception as the 2023 Summer Festival gets ready to kick off this month. Evans Mirageas is the artistic director of the Cincinnati Opera. And Evans, tell us a little bit about the lineup that we will see. There are some patron favorites that will be performed, also some new works. Tell us a little bit about this Summer Festival.
It's, as you say, a combination of classics and a new take on one classic in particular, and new material that will be first heard anywhere in the world, and some of it that is a reprise of things that we know already. And I love this balance because we get to present time-honored classics like Lucia di Lammermoor and The Barber of Seville, neither of which has been on our stage for almost 20 years, more than 20 years for Lucia. We haven't done Lucia since 1997. And then we have also a brand new production of Madame Butterfly, born of the imagination of an entirely Japanese or Japanese-American production team, telling the story through their eyes, not through the eyes of what was basically a group of white male Westerners who originated the story and created the opera. And equally powerful for me and for us is the world stage premiere of an opera called The Knock, co-written by librettist Deborah Brevoort and opera composer Alexandra Vrebalov. And it is telling the story of that soldier who must come to your home and knock on your door and tell you that your spouse has been killed in battle. And in addition, as you rightly mentioned, we're trying something new this summer. We're finding more and more that opera goers, particularly new opera goers, like up close and personal. It's not that they don't like being in the grandeur of music hall, who doesn't? But to get to hear an artist in, as it were, close range is really quite special. So two of our artists this summer are branching out and showing us another side of their musical personalities. On July the 12th, mezzo-soprano Emily Fons, who sings our Rosina, is going to do a wonderful curated evening where she shares with us the music that got her to fall in love with music. And it's a wide range, everything from art songs to American musical theater to music that she loved as a little kid. It's very personal. And I'm really looking forward to it. She'll be joined at the piano by the head of our music staff, Andrew Crooks. Inman Ford presents the second studio session on July the 19th, and this is going to be, I think, pretty wild. Inman has reimagined the Orpheus legend with influences from modern-day music, particularly hip-hop. This is a piece that in its entirety was ready to be produced in London at the Young Vic Theatre in March of 2020.
And we all know what happened then.
The set was built, the costumes were created, they were in their final rehearsals, and they shut it down. So what Inman has done, there will be a world stage premiere of the full piece coming up soon, but Inman has made a condensed version, sort of almost, it's not a backer's audition because it's a fully told story, but with him and a soprano and a narrator telling the Orpheus myth through modern eyes, and that will be the second studio session. So it's this wonderful variety of time-honored classics in a gorgeous theater with the great Cincinnati Symphony in the pit, and Lucia and Barber and Butterfly, cutting-edge new works a la The Knock, and something for everyone, meaning something that will entice you to come into a more intimate setting and enjoy a one-on-one, as it were, with an artist at close range.
The Cincinnati Opera, now in its second century,
I look pretty good for 103, don't you think?
That's pretty good. I think that it's really interesting, the longevity of so many of the arts here in Cincinnati, and they all started like right around the same time, like when this country was coming out of another pandemic, coming out of a world war, and it seems like creativity just exploded, especially here in the Cincinnati area. And I hate the phrase back to normal, but this is a feeling, I think, that I know that you were back in music hall last year, but does the opera have its feet under it? Do you think that you are in a rhythm and kind of back to the way it was before everything had to shut down?
It's both back to the way it was and a new world. because one of the things we are recognizing, and we're going to be conscious of it, is the safety of our performers. And COVID hasn't gone away, it's just gone way down. And so our American Guild of Musical Artists, which is the union that represents singers and directors and dancers, all of whom work with us during the summer, has just released their guidelines for the summer festival season. And they are more understanding of where we find ourselves in the arc of this pandemic. And yes, we're back in Music Hall. We're up close and personal. We're going to have parties for our casts and for our donors, and everyone is going to be in Music Hall. Masks will be optional. If you want to wear a mask, you're still welcome to do so. But I think for me, one of the things that is slightly different than the before times, as people are calling them, is that I think in some ways we recognize how much this matters to us. I think it's such a cliche to say it, but it is so true that you never really appreciate something until you are almost on the verge of losing it. And I think many of us feel simply an immense sense of gratitude that we're able to do this again. And because opera, I love opera on film, I love opera recordings, I love opera on television, I love the Met HD broadcasts, but there is nothing that compares to sitting in a theater in a three-dimensional space where the music vibrates you directly from the throat of a singer, almost always unamplified, great Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra sound welling up from the pit. There is nothing to compare with it. And I think the sense of community in a theatrical performance, in a ballet performance, in a symphony concert, in the May Festival, in opera, there's nothing that compares with it. And I think I speak for many of my colleagues, and certainly for many of my patron friends. It's good to be back home. It's good to be back in community again.
And I think that we miss that. We all look around and we realize, as you say, how much we missed being with people and having that common experience, whether it's in a theater or in music hall. We all share that common experience at that same time. When we talk about the opera, and you have your subscribers, and you have the people who come back year after year after year because they enjoy opera so much, but it's also very apparent and very important for the Cincinnati Opera to grow its next generation. So I know that the opera has several programs, not necessarily during the summer, but throughout the year, to really grow that next generation, that new audience. Talk a little bit about other things that the opera does.
We have a robust education and community engagement program. We are still in the schools. For a while, we thought, no one was going to want to see or hear opera in today's elementary and secondary school education environment because testing has taken on such almost abnormal importance. But we're lucky here in Cincinnati that loves culture, as you say, from an historical point of view, that we're still welcome in the school settings. Maybe more private schools than public schools, but Cincinnati Public Schools has been very generous to us, and we still reach out and take opera to young women and men and children. The other thing that we do is we're also cultivating the next generation of leadership, because let's remember we're a not-for-profit institution that depends on the stewardship of a board of directors. So we have the board of directors, and then we have a younger group called the Center Stage Board Associates. And they're not necessarily board members in training, because these women and men are already well along in their professions. It simply acknowledges that they may not have the disposable income, maybe they're raising families at that point, to make a full commitment to be a regular board member, but they are very valuable to us in that they are helping organize events that are for people their own age. And so every once in a while they give me special permission to come to one of their events, because I'm definitely over 40. But I'm thrilled at that initiative as well, to create, as it were, a line of succession in leadership of the institution. Because the CSBAs, as we call them, also organize a rich menu of events throughout the calendar year that is specifically geared to their peers. So we're firing on all cylinders when it's trying to create the next generation of both audience and leadership.
As we said, 2023 Summer Festival starting in June. Tickets, tell us about how we can get tickets.
Very, very simple. You go to our website and you can purchase them online. We still have an old-fashioned box office. You can come in person, I believe, any afternoon of the weekdays. We open a little after, I think we're late in the morning or very early afternoon. And it's at the north end of Music Hall. It's in the 1243 entrance. There's a big sign out there that says box office, so you can actually walk up to a window and still buy a ticket. But we're finding, of course, many people buy online, and you can also call us. Our telephone number is on the website. Very easy. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to fall in love with opera if you're doing it for the first time, or renew your love affair with our wonderful company and our wonderful art form.
Evans Mirageas, the Artistic Director of the Cincinnati Opera, talking about the 2023 Summer Festival and so much more surrounding opera. Evans, thank you so much for being with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.